Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether to support, but let me just congratulate my colleagues for having taken their time to look at the recommendations by the steering committee and on this task force, the BBI task force. Mr. Speaker, sir, my biggest concern is that most of the recommendations in this report were not taken into consideration in the final BBI report. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look at some of the recommendations made by the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights, two of those recommendations which are very critical for this House, one which has to do with Article 123 of the Constitution, the rights to vote, which, Mr. Speaker, if you remember, earlier on during the year, or rather a few months ago, we were able to exercise that right to be able to defend this House. But I'm disappointed, Mr. Speaker, because even though the committee recommended that Article 123 be retained in the proposed Constitution Amendment Bill, the task force did not take that into consideration. And that, to me, is one of the reasons why I do not support the BBI implementation, or rather the Constitution Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, the committee also, I was looking through this report, and one of the proposals that we felt strongly about has to do with the issue of consolidated fund, Article 203 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, when I peruse quickly this report by the committee, it doesn't mention anything to do with that. And we could be gaining so much with the BBI, Mr. Speaker, but when we lose money in counties, our Constitution, which is a living document, is very clear on Article 202 and Article 203 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, because of time, I'll be speaking on this issue on the adjournment motion so that I can be able to clearly explain to Kenyans what my reservations are. Yes, the Committee on Legal and Justice did their part. They went through the recommendations of the BBI task force, and they raised their objections, and they also further recommended that certain things be taken into consideration. I'm disappointed that they were not. So I will support the report because I perused it, but I will also hope that in future, this process will be geared towards supporting the entire 47 million people and not just some of the people, because that is what is in the Constitution. The preamble of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, starts with the word, we the people. So if we are the ones who are supporting it, then at least all the issues, particularly the voting power, the issue of revenue sharing, those are things that we should have been able to insist that they are included in that Constitution Amendment Bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I will reserve my comments for a later session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.